Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Saturday, January 31st, 2026.
Wow.
We have officially survived the first month of the year. And I have to say, looking at the stack of research we have for today,
It's a big one.
it's huge. If you checked out of the crypto markets for the holidays to, touch grass and you're just coming back now, you might feel like you've been in a coma for a decade.
It really does feel that way. Usually January is for empty gym resolutions that everyone gives up on.
Right.
But looking at the data from OANDA and this massive regulation report from PwC, it looks like the global financial system actually kept its resolution.
Which was what?
It decided to completely tear out its own plumbing and install something new.
That is exactly what we need to unpack. Because the vibe has shifted. We aren't seeing those to-the-moon memes or, wild speculation about dog coins.
I don't know at all.
The conversation has turned, serious. It's heavy. It's about infrastructure.
That is the key word for this deep dive: infrastructure. For the last 10 years, we lived in the era of regulation by enforcement.
Right, which was basically the government suing people randomly to tell them what the rules might be.
Exactly. That era is dead. As of January 2026, we have entered the era of market implementation.
So here's our mission today. We're synthesizing the January market data with that big PwC report to answer, I think, 3 big questions.
Okay.
1, how are governments finally playing ball with crypto? 2, why is the U.S. government secretly thrilled that private companies are printing digital dollars?
And the big one.
And 3, why has quantum computing suddenly replaced the SEC as the thing keeping Bitcoiners awake at night?
It is a heavy stack, but the narrative is surprisingly clear. It's the story of crypto growing up.
And like most growing pains, it starts in Washington.
It always does.
Let's dive into Section 1, the U.S. regulatory pivot. We have to talk about the White House. There's a different energy coming out of the administration this month.
Different is an understatement. It's proactive. We have the new crypto czar, David Sachs, advising the White House. And just this month, he confirmed that the Clarity Act is finally moving to committee.
The Clarity Act. The Digital Asset Market Clarity Act. Government acronyms are usually terrible, but that one at least promises clarity. But for you listening, why does this specific bill matter?
It solves the original sin of the U.S. crypto industry,
Which is?
the turf war between the SEC and the CFTC. I mean, imagine you're trying to build a business, but you have 2 different police forces on your street, and they have completely different laws.
One says your token is a security, like a stock.
And the other says it's a commodity, like a bushel of wheat.
And if you guess wrong, you get sued into oblivion.
Precisely. It paralyzed development. The Clarity Act is basically a peace treaty. It draws a bright line in the sand.
Okay.
It defines exactly when a digital asset behaves like a stock and when it behaves like a commodity. It sounds boring, but for institutional investors, the pension funds, the banks, this is the green light they've been waiting for.
The permission slip for the big money to enter the room. But that's not the only piece of legislation we need to talk about.
No. We also have the Genius Act.
Yep. Passed back in July 2025, but we are deep in the implementation phase as of this month.
Genius. That's a lot to live up to for a piece of paper.
It is a flashy name for something incredibly dry. It sets up federal rules for stablecoins. The core requirement is the one-to-one rule.
Explain that.
It means if you issue a digital dollar, you have to have a real U.S. dollar or, a U.S. Treasury bill sitting in a regulated vault to back it up.
No more trust us, we're good for it.
No more algorithmic magic tricks. It turns stablecoins from risky casino chips into a legitimate, federally standardized way to move value.
This leads to the most fascinating part of this for me. For years, the theory was that the U.S. government hated stablecoins.
Right, hated Circle, hated Tether.
Because they wanted to launch their own FedCoin, a central bank digital currency, a CBDC.
Exactly. The fear was total government surveillance and control, a digital dollar issued directly by the Fed.
But the research shows something completely different. Executive Order 14178, issued January 23, 2025. And it didn't just ignore the idea of a CBDC.
What did it do?
It explicitly prohibited federal agencies from creating one.
That is a massive pivot. Why would the government handcuff itself like that? Why not build the Fed coin?
Because they realize they don't have to. It's a strategic bet on the private sector.
How so?
The U.S. looked at the landscape and said, why should we spend billions building this tech and dealing with all the privacy headaches?
When someone else is doing it for free.
When Circle, Paxos, PayPal, They're already doing it better than we can, so they just set the safety standards. That's the Genius Act. And then they let the private market build the rails.
So they're outsourcing the digitization of the dollar.
That's it. And it's actually a brilliant geopolitical move,
What makes it geopolitical?
because it allows the U.S. dollar to spread globally on crypto rails without the U.S. government directly forcing it on people. It leads to what the PwC report calls the invisible dollar.
The invisible dollar. I like that.
It's this idea that stablecoins are shifting the dollar from being a reserve asset, like a bond sitting in a vault that never moves,
To a reserve network.
a reserve network, because these things are moving 247 on blockchains. And the data backs this up. The report notes that 99% of global stablecoin value is dollar denominated.
99%.
99. It is a staggering monopoly.
So what does that actually mean for someone on the ground?
It means a kid in Argentina, a developer in Vietnam, they might not have a U.S. bank account. They might not trust their local currency, but they have a crypto wallet on their phone,
And inside that wallet.
or digital dollars.
So while the crypto purists are shouting about decentralization and taking down the system,
Ironically, yes.
the technology is actually entrenching the U.S. dollar deeper than ever before.
Bitcoin was supposed to kill fiat currency. Instead, the blockchain is acting as a lifeboat for the dollar.
That transitions us perfectly to the global picture, because while the U.S. is making these moves, that PwC report points out that the U.S. is still playing catch-up.
Oh, absolutely. If the U.S. is just now laying the foundation, Europe has already built the house.
With MiCAR.
Right. The European Union has MiCAR markets in crypto assets regulation. That became fully operational back in December 2024.
And they have DORA, too.
The Digital Operational Resilience Act. That kicked in regarding cyber resilience just this month, January 2025.
Okay, so break those down. What do MiCAR and DORA actually change for a user in Europe?
MiCAR is basically consumer protection. It ensures that if an exchange goes bust, your assets aren't just gone.
It creates liability.
It creates liability.
Yeah.
And DORA is about the tech stack. It forces financial institutions to prove they can survive a massive cyber attack. So while the U.S. is debating what these things are, Europe is already enforcing how safe the vaults need to be.
The report had a great phrase for this. Crypto is global by design, but local in reality.
That's the friction point right now. The blockchain doesn't care about borders, but regulators do. So you have this fragmented ecosystem.
Right, a company have to navigate MiCAR in Europe, the Genius Act in the U.S., and something totally different in Singapore.
Exactly. But despite that fragmentation, the PwC report uses another term I found really interesting: co-opetition.
It's a great business school term, isn't it?
It is, but it fits. We used to think it was banks versus crypto. One wins, one dies.
But that's not what's happening.
No, PwC is saying, look at the data. They are merging. Banks are treating regulation not as a constraint,
But as what?
as critical market infrastructure. They realize that once the rules are clear, like with the Clarity Act, they can actually step in. They can offer custody.
They don't want to become Blockbuster Video.
They do not want to become Blockbuster Video.
Right. But before we get too optimistic about this brave new world of, safe, regulated crypto, we have to look at the dark side.
The Wild West isn't completely gone.
The ONDA analysis from January highlights that.
Yeah. Wherever you have money and complexity, you have grifters. And the biggest trend in fraud right now is combining the two buzziest buzzwords, crypto and AI.
The AI Wealth Inc. case.
A classic example. The SEC cracked down on them, and a group called Morocoin, late last year, they scammed investors out of over $14 million.
How'd they pull it off? Was it some kind of super advanced hacking AI?
That's what they wanted you to think. They claimed they had an AI trading bot with an unbeatable edge.
But they didn't.
No. They used AI to generate fake social media profiles, fake testimonials, fake chat logs that looked incredibly human. They built a simulation of success.
So the AI wasn't trading.
Mm.
The AI was just the marketing department.
Exactly. It was a Ponzi scheme wrapped in a sci-fi skin. It's a good reminder. Just because the tech is new, the crime is old.
It's still just fraud.
It's just fraud. And speaking of old crimes, there's money laundering. There's this myth that crypto is anonymous and untouchable.
Censorship resistant.
Right. But Oandia reported a massive freeze by Tether in early January that challenges that.
This was significant.
Very. Tether froze $182 million in USDT across just 5 wallets on the Tron blockchain.
182 million. That is not pocket change.
And they did it instantly. They did it to align with U.S. government efforts to clamp down on illicit funding.
So much for unstoppable money.
It proves that if you are using a centralized stablecoin like Tether or USDC, you are using a digital dollar that has an off switch. If law enforcement comes knocking,
They can and will freeze your assets.
they will. Which brings us to the final and honestly the most terrifying part of our deep dive.
Yeah, this one's different.
We've talked about regulation, we've talked about scams, those are human problems. The ONNDA report mentioned a physics problem,
Quantum computing.
the existential threat.
We hear about quantum all the time as this distant sci-fi future, but apparently on January 12th of this year, a company called BTQ Technologies launched the Bitcoin Quantum Testnet. Why now?
Because the clock is ticking faster than we thought. To understand the threat, you have to understand this tiny quirk in Bitcoin's history. When Bitcoin first launched, the way it created addresses where you store your money was different. These are called legacy addresses.
Legacy addresses. Keep it simple for us. What's the difference between a legacy address and a modern one?
Think of a modern Bitcoin address like a mailbox. You can see the slot to put money in, but you have no idea what the key looks like. The public key is hidden, or hashed, until you spend the money.
Okay, so it's camouflaged.
Right. But these old legacy addresses...
No camouflage.
No camouflage. The public key is sitting right there on the ledger, visible to everyone. It's like a glass mailbox. You can see the mechanism inside.
And why is that a problem for quantum computers specifically?
Because that's what quantum computers are designed to do. They are incredibly good at factoring large numbers. If they can see that public key, a powerful quantum computer could, hypothetically, reverse engineer the math and derive the private key.
Meaning they could unlock the glass mailbox and just take the money.
Instantly, without a password.
Okay, but we're talking about ancient history here. Satoshi-era coins. Is there really enough money in these glass mailboxes to matter?
This is the stat that made my jaw drop.
What is it?
Approximately 6.26 million Bitcoin are held in these legacy addresses.
6 million.
Yeah.
That's almost a third of the entire supply of Bitcoin.
At today's prices, that is over $2 trillion.
$2 trillion sitting in glass vaults, waiting for someone to invent a rock big enough to smash them.
That is exactly the situation. That is why this BTQ testnet is so important. The industry is rushing to figure out post-quantum cryptography.
They're trying to upgrade the whole network?
They need to upgrade the entire Bitcoin network to be resistant to these attacks before the quantum computers get powerful enough to launch them. It really puts the SEC lawsuits into perspective.
Yeah, who cares if the government classifies you as a security if a supercomputer can just vaporize your wealth?
It's a race between the physicists building the computers and the cryptographers building the shields. And right now, in 2026, that race is heating up.
You know, this brings up a good point. We're staring down quantum annihilation, and yet the market is just chugging along.
It is. It's remarkably calm.
So let's ground this in the numbers. End of January 2026. What are the charts actually doing?
It's been a muted start to the year, honestly. The market is just digesting all this infrastructure news. It's what we call consolidation.
Let's look at Ethereum first. I know they've been busy.
Yeah, Ethereum is heads down building. They successfully implemented the BPO hard fork in early January. This is part of their Fusaka upgrade series.
Fusaka. Sounds like a finishing move in a video game.
It does, but it's really just technical housekeeping. It's refining parameters, making the network more efficient.
And the goal is what?
The goal is to make layer 2s cheaper and faster so that banks remember that infrastructure play can use Ethereum as a settlement layer. Price-wise, it's hovering in a pivot zone between $3,000 and $3,200.
And the big dog, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is testing its 50-day moving average. It's finding support around $89,000.
I still chuckle when we say $89,000 is support. I remember when that sounded like a fantasy.
Well, inflation and adoption move the goalpost quickly. The resistance is up at the all-time highs, around 124 to 126,000. It feels coiled.
Waiting for a catalyst.
Waiting for something, maybe the Clarity Act passing to break out.
And what about Solana?
Showing resilience. It's regaining its pivot zone at 140 to 150. It's proving it's here to stay as a major player.
So let's bring it all home. We are 1 month into 2026. It feels like the Wild West is finally being paved over.
That's the perfect metaphor. The rails are built. We have the Clarity Act and the Genius Act in the U.S. We have MiCAR operational in Europe. The banks have arrived. The dollar has gone digital.
And the distinction between traditional finance and crypto is just evaporating.
Exactly.
That's the big takeaway for you listening. If you use a banking app, if you send money overseas, You are likely using this infrastructure whether you know it or not. The plumbing has changed, even if the faucet looks the same.
And that's generally a good thing. It means the technology is working. We're moving from speculation to utility.
But I want to leave the listener with a thought on that quantum threat we discussed. We spent the last decade worrying about regulators killing crypto.
Right.
Now that the regulators are finally on board, is the real boss fight against physics?
It's the ultimate question. I mean, if there is $2 trillion of Bitcoins sitting in those legacy wallets, Satoshi's coins, early miners, and quantum computers get close to breaking them.
We might see the greatest forced migration of wealth in history. Just imagine 6 million Bitcoin suddenly moving all at once, just to run away from a quantum heist.
That would be a market signal you could not ignore.
That would be a day where you do not want to be short.
No, you do not.
Indeed. We will keep our eyes on the charts and the particle accelerators. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the state of crypto in 2026.
Until next time.
Take care, everyone.